those two need to go live in a couple seconds after I copy paste this code. Inshallah. So Facebook and IG. Do we have questions we can think of off top? Security. Yeah. Did you go live already? Kind of. Regular Zoom and special to YouTube is already live. So we're currently live. Okay, we live. Alrighty. So I'm like a peace, everybody. Coach Nazir, and we will be ready in about 60 to 90 seconds. Yeah, and they'll let you know what today is, premium and share, and everyone who's not official RMIC members.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to our RMIC Sunday
Q&A.
Q&A session of RMIC. This session we are actually opening up to everyone. So make sure you share, sharing your social media, sharing is caring, all that other great stuff. So yeah, if you are a premium member, you can go and log into your membership area, and you can view it from there, comment there, leave any questions. Make sure you put question marks before and after your questions so we can see them. RMIC members, make sure you are logging in your members area, your RMIC members area. And yeah, something else I was going to say.
Yeah, no, make sure if you all have a question, first and foremost, where are you from? Let us know. We love to see where our audience is from and connect with you guys. Please also, if you have a question, put question marks before the question so there, we can identify it better in the chat. If you all have questions for us today, hopefully, prayerfully you do. Just glad to see you all.
Yes, and another thing is that RMIC members get access to the downloads, they get access to the worksheets, they get access to the replays or the recordings and downloads for all of the training for the month. So the training that I did this month, Coach Nazir, and last week's training by my wonderful co-wife, Coach Fatimah, you guys will be able to get that if you are an RMIC member. How do you become an RMIC member if you are not an RMIC member? Oh, come on, tongue tied. Make sure you go to outstandingpartialrelationscom/RM for relationship mastery. All the details are right there. So giving you guys some time, we're going to have a great conversation, give you some great nuggets and some good training. Also answer questions from our RMIC members, as well as people who are giving us questions in the chat. We're going to try to get to as many as we can.
We're going to be focusing on our membership area. So whether it's the freemium or our RMIC membership area. So we won't be focusing on YouTube or Facebook, who are guests today,
Okay, so not today.
but it's freemium.
It's
So
freemium, so make sure you go to that link. Those who are part of our email list, they did get an email on how to sign up for the freemium, how to sign up for RMIC. Make sure you check those emails as well, but you guys are here, so we're glad to see you.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan
Those
Mubarak.
of you who are fasting and are Muslims who are fasting this month.
And also, we want to really thank you all for all the love and support we've been getting as a collective in the YouTube comments. That is so humbling to, I know all three of us, because I never thought I'd be on YouTube. Say that much. But to see that you all are giving us so much love and support, that is so much appreciated, and we give it to you in return. And thank you for so many beautiful du'as that you all have made for our specific family. And Ameen, and may Allah reward you for your kindness and your kind du'as. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Jazakallah.
I also want to thank the trolls
Yes, our marketing.
because it allows people to recognize where people are mentally. And it shows them some people are hurt, some are just bitter, some are pissed. Shows them, where people are. So thank you, trolls. We'll leave your comments there for the most part, as long as they're not just outright insulting, racist, or something like that. But yeah, people will see that. So appreciate you as well. Sometimes people can find their growth. We've had people look at themselves a year later like, whoa, can't believe I said that. Now I'm Muslim and I understand and so on. So thank you too. So that's all.
Oh yeah, so this month we've been focusing on foundation, pretty much getting back to the basics and moral standards and recalibrating your moral compass and all of those good things, because in the wake of just what is going on in the media today, it just was going on today, period. And I'm pretty sure you guys can attest to and agree with that. It's totally different. There's a lack of morals right now, and those lack of morals do cause a lot of problems and issues when it comes to relationships and how do you build an outstanding relationship with, or any type of outstanding relationships with lack of morals, without a lack of moral compass. And the thing is that, not going into saying that, we just got it all together and everything like that. No, the thing is, as I spoke about in my training this month, I talked about where we may believe a certain thing, and then after a while, we're like, oh, wow. Like Coach Nazir just said about looking at trolls, was like, I can't believe I said that. And, I've changed, and, I learned some things and everything like that. So the recalibrating our moral compass is not to knock anybody for the lack of morals, so to speak. It's just
Yes,
sometimes what I'm saying.
No, the reason I'm saying that is because there's something our parents and other people say this a lot of times. You should know better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
That's all it is.
Right.
So you know better.
And
We all know better. We have this internal compass
We do.
that needs calibrating.
And
We
I
know
guess
better.
what I'm saying.
So we knocking
That's
you.
true. That's true. We not get, it's certain things, because certain things you don't know, and you don't know better. So that's what I mean. But things that are just, you do have a, just this natural goodness and know better in your heart and inside you. So when you feel that is wrong, you pretty much know it's wrong. So, but the thing is that when you stray away from that, that you have an opportunity to come back, but you got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to not be so stubborn and say, you know what, I made a mistake. I messed up. I was out of order. And sometimes that's so hard for people because of the ego, and it gets in the way, and people just continue on that negative or that moralist path because they don't want to admit to the mistake, or admit to the wrongdoing, or admit to just being out there, for lack of a better word. So we have been focusing on that this month. Let's get back to the basics. Let's recalibrate our moral compass and get back to knowing better, not only knowing better, but doing better because we know better.
All right, so we started, well, we didn't start. Last month, we ended and dealt with our Q&A, talking about and sharing some of the lessons that we learned from so many people's favorite relationship coaches. I don't think they, and then our coaches, they don't call themselves coaches, but people that deal in relationships at different platforms, with Mr. Kevin Samuels and Mr. Derek Jackson. That was pretty interesting. And which led again into this month with, now, pardon my voice, got some vocal cord under the weather type stuff going on, and fasting. So, drinking something to moisten them is not going to work. But one of the challenges that we really found is being able to have perspective without biases coming in. All right. So whether it be, again, the whole covert narcissist thing with Derek Jackson, or whether it's the do whatever you want to do, some of the misogynistic parts with Kevin Samuels, with, women are disposable in general when it comes to a certain type of man, or what he considers a high value man. It comes to these morals, that is foundation. So it doesn't matter what your background really is. We know that we prefer in general to deal with people who have morals. Now, if you do not, then you're likely not tuned in here right now anyway, that's your troll. So what I mean is, when you go to the store, you don't want to be cheated by someone, right? You don't want to be hassled and lied to and deal with all kinds of stuff. So when dealing with someone else or someone with morals, that means they have character, a good character. Not that they are a character, but you're looking at and dealing with someone with good character. So the question comes, how can we develop that within ourselves? Because that makes all of our relationships better. Whether practicing polygyny, monogamy, just being an individual, an upstanding character individual. I remember when my mentor said, charisma gets you to the top, character keeps you there. And I began to apply that to a number of different people, because you see people's downfalls and all kinds of things that happen. So you can easily see it outside of yourself because you're disassociated. It becomes more challenging when we're looking at ourselves. So when I see people, as an example, just throwing names of politicians that people know, or famous people that people know, and you look at people in the religious arena. So whether it be a Reverend Jesse Jackson, for example, all right, down with MLK back in the day, possibly, who knows what was really going on with COINTELPRO and everything else. There have been a number of accusations, but forget that part. But what about the upstanding part of supposed to be a man of principle and character and religious values? And he ran for president. I remember these type of things as a kid, and wasn't going to try to run again until, his opponents was like, no, you're not running again. Now with your baby out of wedlock, Reverend. They brought that stuff to the forefront. He bowed out like was expected, kept pushing to the side. Or you got the Bill Clinton where, hey, whatever he does in his personal life is personal. But what he does over here in the political life, hey, that's what matters to me, not the personal thing. But so you can't separate the two. It's like the body and the soul. All right, you can't have one that's just all the way janky and messed up and don't think it's going to bleed over to other parts of your life. So the first part is that accountability, which Coach Nyla was talking about. Being responsible, that's part of being an adult. I read some meme probably last week, and it was like, look, you can have a 38-year-old girl and a 23-year-old woman. 38-year-old girl, 23-year-old woman when it comes to maturity. Very important, because we have a lot of people, especially when it comes to polygyny, and I'm in the process of working to address those leaders in our particular religious communities, specifically when it comes to polygyny, Because there are a lot of complaints. Oh, this isn't done right. This is done over here in private or in secret. Or how come they weren't concerned about the emotion? Nobody took da. But the fact of the matter is our leaders are failing us in this area. They're not speaking about it. They're glossing over it. They're giving it all kinds of exceptions and things that are not part of it. And we know that marriages bring people together. That's the foundation of society. And if we're not talking about polygyny and giving it proper airplay, then the people who are the leaders in different communities, faith communities in particular, hold their share of the responsibility for things not being done right. One, and then women, two, where you can be your own downfall and your worst enemy. And many times we see it when it comes to jealousy and pettiness and all that stuff, but we see it on a bigger level when you actually are hurting and harming yourselves with not understanding and dealing with reality and understanding history. So there's a bone to pick and a thing to bear there as well. So, we're working on that. Nevertheless, I've already talked a lot with my vocal cords and don't want to get cotton mouth. So ladies.
I think I'm going to just piggyback off of what Coach Nazir was saying. We're not ready for the Q&A portion just yet. But I do think that the leadership, especially, I'm speaking about the landscape I was raised in specifically, but it's like a tree, it just branches out in so many places. I think when polygyny starts to become unhealthy, when the people that are supposed to be supporting it don't, it makes it difficult on the men that want to practice polygyny. I start to think about who do they talk to about that if they can't talk to their own community and be supported by their own community. If I've experienced personally the most vicious comments come from the Muslim community. They don't come from people that are not Muslim necessarily. For me personally, that's been my personal experience. And I'm thinking, aren't you supposed to embrace and protect this, way of life, this religion or culture, not just the parts or the bits that you like? We're supposed to embrace all of it as a whole. So when the men want to practice polygyny or the women want to practice polygyny, it gets shunned. And no one wants to perform a marriage to, for a man that wants to practice polygyny. We've had men in our, in DMs, emails, and different things. And I know their wives, and these men want to wife. These men want to practice polygyny, but they don't feel safe in talking about it or doing so. And I said, if they had a safe space in which to feel support, then it would be easier to talk to families, wives about it, because then we all would feel supported. But because we're not talking about polygyny and it's getting swept up under the rug, so many people are getting hurt because of what we're not doing. And it's hard. Like, this stuff is cataclysmic to a family because the man is trying to balance everything because he knows everybody's story, everybody's drama, everybody's gripes, complaints, concerns, heartbreak, heartache, everything. They know it on all angles. So I don't want to just talk about having two wives. It's about having more than one wife, up to 4 in our culture. And I know some brothers that maybe have 3. I don't know any that have 4, but it's very difficult when a family feels like they don't have support or anyone to talk to within their own community. It feels like you're being hurt by your own family. Now, everybody in our community is not family to me. Some do have slick comments, slick judgments, snap judgments, and all these different things. But there are those that really support our family. And I feel like they're an extension of our family. But even with that, they were scared to kind of show that they supported our family in polygyny. Like, I really make it dua for you all, kind of, and it comes off as a whisper. And I said, that's because people are shunned and shamed in this lifestyle. And it's really, really hurtful for the children that are in families that practice polygyny because children don't know. to them, it is something that's normal to them. So when other people come up and ask questions to children in our community, well, how long have we, and this, and that, I always tell my older daughters, send them to YouTube. Send them to YouTube. We talk about it there because I don't want them to be in a position where they feel uncomfortable as women asking questions that should be asked to the people that are in the marriages. Because some of these questions have been very, very intimate over the years and intimidating for at least my daughters who are all grown. They have memories of these. I'm like, why would somebody walk up to our children when they were younger and ask them these questions? Because they don't want to ask us. So it's easier to go after the kids. So I really wish within the Muslim community, we would open up these platforms and these discussions, because that's the only way that we're going to find some type of comfort among each other and stop shunning people that practice polygyny.
I agree. And when you think of a number of the comments and even the questions, as I stated before, I talked about recalibrating moral compass. That's what I trained on. I talked about a number of things in that training. One, dealing with shaming and the different words that are thrown about when it comes to immorality, I guess I want to say right now. One is the term toxic masculinity. Another is slut shaming and feminist boys, raising feminist boys. And one of the questions was, so you have a problem with boys being raised to, see women as their equal. And as I stated in the training, we are not equal. Women and men are not equal. And when we really get to the point to understand that and not see it as a bad thing, a lot of things will be a whole lot better. We are not made equal. Men cannot bear children, that they cannot carry them and go into labor. There are things that men do that women cannot do, and don't say that. So it's a number of things. And so we are not equal. We already have issues where you have a transgender woman or whatever, trans woman, now was born a man, now a woman, bashing some other woman's head because they want to be part of that arena of sport or whatever the case may be, but they identify as a woman now, even though they have this physical strength of a man. So we are not equal. So it's not about, it's about teaching your children. This is what I said, and this is what and I'll stick with it because I truly believe it. When it comes down to it, if you're teaching your boys to view women as their equal, then you take away their masculinity, the masculine part of being protectors and providers. You take that away from them, because if that woman or that girl, whatever, is equal to them, then she don't need to be protected by him. She don't need to be provided for. She can do the same exact things that he can do, and she can go ahead and live her happy-go-lucky life. We talked about how being the strong, independent Black woman, that term has caused some issues, and Black women are so tired of being that strong, independent Black woman. But it was put out there, that was one of the lies that was put out there, that's power. And it tore families apart. I saw a meme where it showed, it said, oh, you're so strong woman. And the woman was drowning. Oh, you're so strong woman. And she had her hand out to help, and they gave her a high five. So it wasn't no handout to help. It's like, go ahead, do your thing. So when it comes down to it, yeah, I do have a problem with boys being taught that women are their equal. I have a problem with it being said, that's that moral standard where it's like, now it's like, I don't have to care for you. I don't have to take care of you, and it's not even about a need and this necessity thing. It's about that personal power as a man. It's about that masculine energy that men get for being these providers, for being these protectors. When they say, oh, this woman, I said there's one or two things. They'll stop protecting and providing for women, or they're going to start acting like women. And then, so either way, it's a bad thing to me. And when it comes to recalibrating our moral compass, we have to really realize that and understand that, yes, it's okay to have gender roles. It makes sense. It's where it's that divine wisdom in it all. So that's one of the questions that I wanted to address.
Yes, it's Ramadan. Question that we get pretty often. Just for those of you who are just joining us, really for the first time, Coach Nazir. I've been married to Coach Fatimah now 26 years, Coach Nyla 11 years. So I've been, again, practicing polygamy for those 11 years. So with that being said, we do not live in the same house. We have separate homes in close proximity. The way we develop or deal with time is pretty much on like a 24-hour cycle. So similar, same time of day kind of window, if you will, switch homes during that time. But I also am at both houses, each day. So pick my sons up, we go pray at the masjid, Fajr. After that, we do some running around or whatever we need to do. But we're at, both houses. I'm at both houses pretty much every day. Children see me every day. That's the way that I really wanted to have it set up. So that's just how we do it when it comes to time. It's not like 2 days here, 1 day, 3 days over here, then a week. Nah, you know what I'm saying? There are invisibles, which are the things that most people have gripes about, which again goes back to the community leaders and the lack of training and shyness and weakness of the men in particular when it comes to this form of marriage. So the invisibles meaning how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you manage emotions and challenges and struggles or conflict resolution and things like that? Because the measurables are time and money. That's relatively simple. You can put both of them on a ledger. You can look at a clock. All right, that's it. You need to be equitable, you need to be fair in these things. Outside of that, we know that there's no way that you can measurably say, okay, well, I'm 50% here, 51%. You really can't measure emotions. You can't measure these other things. All right, but you can, as a man, become more aware, increase your emotional aptitude, and work on your communication skills and these other soft things, these immeasurables or these invisibles, if you will. So in Ramadan, again, nothing has really changed when it comes to scheduling. Only difference we have Tarawih now. For those of us who are praying in the masjid and whose masajid or mosque have opened, some haven't, but ours has. So we go, and pretty much keep it like that. So that's just a comic question, not a comic question, but that's a question a brother had asked there. The other part was brother asked a question about one of the RMIC members. And again, we're only addressing RMIC members right now. Prayerfully, we'll be able to get to Facebook and YouTube, depending on how many more questions we have amongst ourselves for our trainings. But the question is, what if in the past you have already, you made some different mistakes and errors and stuff as you were learning marriage and stuff like that, but now you want to go ahead and correct them? The only thing I would say regard to that, because it was a brother who posed the question, is to accept responsibility for it, apologize for it, move on and demonstrate better. We're humans, we all make mistakes, make errors, big, small, you're still living, so there's still an opportunity. But to accept responsibility, accountability, acknowledge it, and keep pushing. All right, someone continues to want to drag and pulling thought up in your face and stuff like that, you need to question the validity of it, but also probably discussing what it's going to take for the person to heal and move forward. What is that, the reasoning for it? Because like people talk about, they want skeletons in the closet. being pulled out or having graveyards, all kind of different things we have as humans, right? And no one wants that stuff. But if you are answering to a higher power, seeking forgiveness, trying to do better, and in Ar-Rahman, the one who is the most loving and most kind, forgives you and continues to move on, then, you know, demonstrate something better in your marriage and move forward and make that a point of communication. So, you know, prayerfully, that part helps, but there's no point in living in the past. I mean, in reality, when you're living life, it's kind of like you're driving or you're traveling on the road in a vehicle. So in doing that, you got this big, huge windshield in front of you. You have a small rear view mirror. You can't get to where you're going by looking in this rear view mirror. You may check there, see what's behind you, check your surroundings with your side view, but you're going in that direction. So your view and everything there needs to be focused in that way. So, inshallah ta'ala, that help? You have any other questions for clarifications on your trainings? And I'm looking in our membership areas for questions. So if you are in the freemium membership area and you have a question, post it in the comments section below the video. Those will get priority to YouTube, Facebook, IG that we just opened up again today because it's Ramadan. If it was not Ramadan, then we would only be broadcasting in our private RMIC membership areas, including the freemium. But you would have to sign up for the freemium to get access there. But those questions do get priority. So if you have any questions, you might have posed them on Facebook or YouTube. We may get to them, but we may not as well.
I wanted to address just one major thing about a question that I had in my training was specifically speaking to, well, first of all, my training is about maximizing your moral character. And one of the ways, and this is huge, is not stepping on the values of others. So Coach Nazir has his list of values that he has as a husband, as a father. And mine looks different. I'm a wife and a mother. So there's a certain set of responsibilities that each one of us has, and we should respect those responsibilities, no matter how different they may be. So I don't have the responsibility of seeing 10 children plus a day, or maneuvering or caring for nurturing. We do that, but my responsibility to them is quite different than Coach Nazir. So we have 5 daughters in this family, and he has to, you know, the lion's share of the responsibility of getting them married and asking the right questions and arranging that for them, and then we support those things. The responsibility is different. So I don't need to tap dance all over his responsibilities or those of my co-wife. It's very important to me for others to understand that in polygyny specifically, you will not carry the same, you know, issues, concerns, and of course the responsibilities. So I can't build my moral character if I'm stepping on everybody else's values, because they're not exactly the same. Yes, as Muslims, we have the same core values, we have the same things that we practice, but the intensity in which we have to, you know, form those responsibilities is different. I don't know what it's like to be a husband and a father. I don't wish to know. I just know that whatever I do has to support those specific sets of responsibilities that Coach Nazir has. So sometimes initial wives or even subsequent wives, depending on how many wives the husband has, will get upset and say craziness. For example, this craziness of if one wife is pregnant and she has appointments or she goes into labor, well, that's on my night. Well, you can't be going to emergency rooms and stuff. It's my night. To me, that's insane to even, and it's very bold and egotistical and selfish to just go, you know what? They can't get sick on this day, and then you have to go take them to an appointment or whatever. The responsibility on the husband is so different. So we have to make things easier versus making things more difficult in the situation. The situation can already be difficult, but it's kind of like my grandma said, you just helping by making something harder. See, I always say this, I can work with you if you're trying. If you're not trying, I can't do anything with someone that's not trying. If it's not going to be perfect, and I think oftentimes, and I'm speaking for some initial wives that did not sign up for polygyny, but oftentimes you're looking for this perfection out of your husband, which you will never get. You change what you can, and what you can't change, you leave alone, because the only person that you can maintain and control and make better is you. So prayerfully, if you all are practicing Islam, that should be a goal for each individual every single day. But it just burns me up every time. Well, he didn't do this, he ran off, or what is happening. This is a huge, huge issue. Well, what's happening in that house affects my house. You doggone right. If somebody break their arm in that house and the husband has to go into the hospital with the child or the wife or whoever, yeah, it's going to affect your house, and you shouldn't mind. You should say, what can I do? What do you need? How can I help? Not complain or fuss or bitch about what's not going perfectly. I love to focus on what's happening that is going right versus what's going wrong. And if something is going wrong, then you need to open your mouth and say, I have a concern, what's happening. Not create more anxiety, not create more frustration and anger, because I'll tell you this, if you keep acting like that, and I'm speaking to women, if you keep acting like that, your husband will resent you. He won't tell you, but he will resent you, because then there's no growth. You're making it harder. So he should be able to, without any blowback, handle the business that he needs to handle, that Allah says he has to handle. And you should not get in the way of that. Because if you're getting in the way of that, then you're thinking better of yourself than you should. You're thinking you have the right to control someone else's life. If he says he's got to go to an appointment or do whatever, go do it, because I'm not going to be held accountable for standing in the way of that. I know how to get a life and go do what I need to do. I know how to entertain me. I know how to take care of me. I don't want nobody up under me all the time, not even my children. Go do something, because I have a life. And we have to understand, I think, as married people, that the people we're married to are a part of our life. They're not our whole life, because that's a form of worship. And sometimes we don't realize we're doing that, and we're making the focal point the husband. So then when he goes off and does something else that's allowed for him to do, then everything falls apart. But he should have never been up that high anyway. I had to learn that myself. So part of that is getting married at such a young age and not having Muslims around me to say, you get blessings for being a good wife, you get blessings for bringing forth children and all these things and feeding people and being just there for them. However, that has its limitations, which means there should be some individuality inside of marriage, so that when these things happen that are halal for the men to do, we don't fall apart while they're doing it. That doesn't mean you can't be hurt. That doesn't mean you can't be mad, but becoming those emotions is dangerous. Because when we're too mad, when we're too hurt, when we're too sad, when we're too full of sorrow, people jump off bridges. People hurt themselves, and Muslims do it too. Muslims do it too. So we have to be very mindful of, I don't like the term morning routine. I'd rather say mastering my morning, because then I feel like there's something that's propelling me forward. And part of that is finding out how I can be the best person, the best Fatimah that I can be. The best Fatimah that I can be is if something happens in the other house and it affects my home, that I don't internalize that. I'll say, okay, what's the best thing to do? The best thing to do is go deal with that emergency, because we've both had, I remember my father specifically, he passed away, and the day of his funeral, Coach Nazir was to be at Coach Nyla in their home. And I was like, well, I don't know if he'll be able to make it to the funeral, because I didn't know the rules. They weren't explained to me to that degree, because nobody was expecting my father to suddenly pass away 3 years into polygyny. So I was like, I don't know, because my children were like, well, are you going with grandma? Are you going with Albert? What's happening? And I didn't know. I didn't even think. I couldn't even think, because I lost my dad, until he said, well, I'm going to be there. But Coach Nyla went on the other side going, well, you can't go to the funeral. I mean, I'm not going for that. This is the day you're supposed to be with us. I lost my dad, and I had one time to bury him. So yes, some things are going to shift scheduling and some things are going to, but you were showing me the tablet.
I told you, right?
Once,
I told
talking.
you. You like, what you be doing?
I
I'm like,
thought
what?
I was getting him some type of cue card.
No.
No, it wasn't her day. That's where I remember my daddy died. My daddy died and he was supposed to be about the house. And he was like, I'm going to the funeral. I was like, oh yeah, he can go. That's his father-in-law, duh. I mean, it escaped me because I wasn't able to think at that time. I couldn't think clearly enough to understand that we all three are supposed to make the situation easier, not more difficult. And I see so many women, especially making it harder. Like you want something to happen to your husband that's so stressed out that blue. And Allah takes the life and he gives it. But the quality of how our husbands live, the quality of how we live matters. So we got to build upon, and be better, the best version of ourselves that we can be. And you got to do that every single day. This is not one-stop shopping. I think so many people are like, well, tell me how to get there now.
Mm-hmm.
This is not get there now.
That's
a
in our
journey.
chapter 1.
This is over a decade. So if people are new, I don't know how many are. Don't compare yourself to this, what you see presently, because it wasn't always that way. And we all have our story of how we overcame the most challenging moments.
So if you'd like to know something like that, and how we kind of overcame, just
Check it out.
the infomercial piece. We created something called the Successful Marriage Challenge, 5-day Successful Marriage Challenge. There's the Queen's Edition by Coach Fatimah and Coach Nyla with over 60 pages of workbooks. And I also did the King's Edition, which is nowhere near 60 pages of workbooks, but nevertheless, you can get that information at outstandingpartialrelationscom/SMC or KSMC if you're looking for them individually, or /Black Friday if you want to see a discount that we put together. I have to say that because a lot of people say, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? And they give us these basic questions.
Right.
And we have over 100 hours of free information on YouTube. We have different courses and things that go deeper. You know what I'm saying? But it's, again, like they said, it's not just here's the question. Oh, you know what? That really makes a whole lot of sense. Changed my whole mind. Helps me understand how to think about this, about myself, and build and grow and develop and everything else. Thank you for that 30 minutes. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a process. Many times we overestimate the event and underestimate the process. So we talk about and to train on and teach on and instruct on processes. All right. So whether you're single, whether you're married, in polygyny and looking to add or become better as a man or a woman, these are different things that we put together. So just wanted to go ahead and insert that at this point. And say something.
Yeah, I want to clarify because I got a question too, because people hear me say men and women are equal. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Do you think that women are inferior to men, or, and I have a number of videos that talk about that. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's not about being inferior to men. And it's like, well, are they spiritually equal, or, what do you mean? Now we're going to be held accountable for the things that we do. We can't blame that on anybody else and say, hey, well, he, should have taken care of me. He should have took care of me. He should have gave me this information. He was the provider. He was this. So he should have gave me that. No, we're still accountable for our own thing, our deeds and, our knowledge and things like that. When we become adults, we become accountable. So we have to figure it out. We have to find out. We have to search, so yeah, we are equal when it comes to those things. Not being equal does not make you inferior. And I think that has been a big issue when it came to the feminist movement, is that it pushed this narrative that because men are put at the forefront of things, because men are, given this certain amount of money, and these different things, that women are inferior. So they have to compete with men in order to get, the equal standing or to get the respect. not realizing that we are amazing in our own right and the things that we do. So equitable, and I always say equitable, yes, equal, no. So when it comes to fairness, when it comes to just, and being just and justice and things like that, yes, that's a thing that we have this equality on, so it's more equitable than equal. Equal, it's the same thing, like a number of things. Coach Fatimah and I, we are both wives, but there are things that she like that I may not like. There are things that I may like that she don't like. So, she has a different taste in flowers. Like I found out later what her favorite flower was, and I gave her something that wasn't, because it was something that I liked.
Yeah.
However, when it comes down to it, not that she said anything bad about it, I just found out that she had a favorite flower. That, so she said, However, the thing is, they say, well, you both are Muslim, you both are women, you both are like, we should be,
You're both up.
you're both black, like we should be lockstep in, whatever. Just because we're not equal do not mean that one is better than the other. One is, less than and inferior than the other. One of the main things is, your spirituality. Are you, doing these deeds? Are you, that it goes to that moral compass. And I talked about that as well and trained on, have a spirituality that holds you accountable. Not something that say, oh, well, and people are going to have an issue with this. People who aren't Muslim will have an issue with me saying this. But hey, I was brought up Baptist, and so it was a lot of different things. But when you are told that someone died for your sins, and you can do whatever, it's pretty much in my head, it's like, oh, I can do whatever I want to.
As long as you believe it's baptized.
As long as I believe, as long as I was baptized and everything like that, hey, I can party over here, nothing over there. And then when it comes down to it, you still got people saying, well, you're going to go to hell. Wait, how are you telling me I'm going to go to hell? But I believe. So now you contradicting this different stuff. So how can you tell me I'm going to hell? But I believe, yeah, I may have done this and that and the other. So it's those things that are like, is it holding you accountable? And as I stated before, sometimes our egos get in the way so tough that when the truth is in front of us, we push it aside because our ego get in the way. So, and that's the same thing when it comes to gender roles, when it comes to the equitable versus being equal, when it comes to men and women. We were created to work together, not to be fighting and competing against each other. But we need to go back, recalibrate our moral compass, and get to the point of going back to the basics and saying, how do we build this strong foundation so we can work together and win together?
All right, so some of the questions from our RMIC members, again, I'm gonna address. Brother asked a question. He says, how do you deal with disrespect from your wife? Or if she's trying to make you feel jealous, as if she would talk to another man, since you have another wife, and says something like, well, then I'll get me a friend on the side.
Ma'am, no ham, no turkey. No. Hold on.
You guys understand on that?
Recollect myself. This is a game she don't want to play.
It's not a
This is not a game you want to play. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's the 90s in me. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely the Islam in me. When you got to think about the person that's saying this, it says so much about them. And I don't know your wife, but it says a lot about her. I don't play them games where I don't play around with people dying. I don't play around with marriage and saying, well, you got somebody, I'm gonna give me somebody. Nothing, it's so serious to say. It's such an incredible thing to say to your husband that, well, I'll just get me somebody. That ain't no joke, because when men get jealous, people die. People die when they get jealous, when they get mad. I was in the middle of a Walmart. These two men started brutally attacking each other, and I was with my daughter. And I ended up on the side of the store with the ladies that were part of this. And one was an older lady, and she said, I tried to get in between them, and I tried to stop it from her. I said, honey, you don't do that. I said, if they kill each other, those are men, they will kill you. with you trying to get in between them to stop them from hurting each other, because they don't care when they get mad. They ready to die. So when somebody says to you, I'll just get somebody on the side, you have to really think about what that means, what that says about the person saying it. This stuff ain't that deep, because we all came here alone and we all gonna go alone. So when a woman says to her, that's violent to me. That's so violent to say that. It's so incredibly disrespectful. You have to evaluate your situation and see if you want to continue to deal with that energy. That's all I will say.
That's what I'm gonna say. It's really disrespectful, and it's very manipulative, in a negative way. And, as Coach Fatimah said, and of course, I'm say just a little bit because this question definitely for the man. It gets to the point, but as women, we have to check women on that, because sometimes women do these things just to see. Oh, I'm gonna see, right? I'm gonna see if he really loves me. I'm gonna see if he can care. Don't play that game. That's not a game you play. It's very, to be disrespectful in that way, to manipulate, to threaten, to say, this is what I'm gonna do because you did this. It's like, I remember my mom making a comment. She said, if I have to do certain things, then why be with you? Why be with this person? So it's like, if I got to put my hands on you, why are we together? If I got to sit there and say, well, I'm going to do this because you didn't do this for me, or I'm going to do this to you because you, it's like, where does that love and support and that togetherness come? It tears, you are now creating a crack or a tear or just this broken relationship based on that venom that you're spewing.
All right. So, how do you deal with disrespect from your wife? Well, it depends on what type of disrespect and stuff it is. All right, we're humans. We have conflict and challenges and stuff like that. There's some things I see sometimes disrespectful, as vice versa. All right, because it's the same question was like, how do you deal with disrespecting your husband? And they'll be like, my husband never is disrespected. They're not going to say anything like that. We're human, okay? So we have these types of things. So I'm going to separate the question. This is the first part. It has a period. So how do you deal with disrespecting your wife? One is patience. And depending on what I would consider the level of disrespect is calling something out at the time or just allowing it to go. Understanding that with my moral compass and as a Muslim, I think of this hadith where the Prophet Islam talked about, or Allah Ta'ala says, those who give up arguing. All right, those who give up arguing, stay away from this arguing. This is important. This comes from one who created us. Stay away from arguing. Allah Ta'ala build a house in Jannah for you. Even if you're right. Even if you're right. And men, a lot of times we like to be right. That's why we argue with something. Even when we get to the point of probably knowing we're wrong. We're humans. So sometimes I think of that and I'm like, I let it go. I want my sins covered up. I know I've done certain things. Or I also try to find out what may be behind that. Maybe it's something else. Maybe there's other stress going on. There's other people or children or circumstances that might be just causing some stress and person a little agitated. It's not something I just get disrespected. You just come throw something at me and I'm like, oh, okay, baby. That's not how I operate in my normal life. So that's not something I can just point to like, let me look over the last week. I can't. It's difficult for me just because, again, we've done a lot of the work already. All right. Now, if I were to say, okay, early on in the marriage, in monogamy, how would I deal with it? Early on in polygyny, how would I deal with it? I'd probably be like, no, hold up, raise my voice, argued about something, thought about it, try to cool down, take a walk, come back, in a number of different ways, right? But we already have the best. Make wudu, make 2 rak'ah. I don't do that often when it comes to praying 2 rak'ah or something. Might make wudu, instead of standing up, may sit down or lay down. These basic types of things of changing your physiology do help. However, how do you deal with disrespect from your wife? It's a little different than how do you deal with if your wife disrespects you. This sounds like it's a pattern or something ongoing. So let's get to moving on. Or she's trying to make you feel jealous as if she'll talk to another man since you have another wife. Well, then I'll give me a friend on the side. All right, listen. We talking about husbands and wives. This ain't boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. All right, you heard my wives talking, and you heard them basically expressing their opinion on what loyalty is. That's what it is. That's a value that I hold extremely high, and most civilizations do. So when she says, oh, men get jealous, not just the jealous part. When you're talking about disloyalty and betrayal, so like that, people die. Yeah, they do on rumors. On rumors. Things ain't even factual online in general. If you're a man, not just talking about the brother who asked the question, but as a man, there are people amongst men and women who are the warriors. They are the ones who fight. They are the ones who things are different when the voice is raised. When there's a lot of testosterone going and moving to another level. Usually it's targeted. I know the hurt, the pain. I know how these things can occur. Right, it's in me. I'm supposed to have that as a man. All right, so trying to make you feel jealous. You got it as a man, as a husband. Now we're talking about a wife. I would urge you very seriously to consider your core values. 1. 2, the reasons why you married this person, and if those reasons are still legitimate. It don't matter how cute somebody is, or how, my hormones get a certain way in the first 13 months, and and it's called the honeymoon phase and everything else. Is she still cute with that disrespect? If that threat of being disloyal is cute, oh, I was just playing, or type stuff, it gives you insight into their perspective and their thinking. You never know someone's intentions. But one thing you can trust is their patterns. So if there's a pattern of disrespect, if there's a threat of, oh, you want to practice polygyny or are practicing polygyny, then that matter needs to be changed. Then it's going to be a problem. And I know the audio is still on there. Batteries inside the bag on the side. So I'm going to keep talking. I know you can still hear me. I know I'm going to change the battery on one of the cameras, but Facebook and IG, y'all still good. It's on the side. You
made a good point. Remember on some of the Walmart thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I called Coach Nazir because they shut the Walmart down because the man threatened to go get a gun. And I said, if a woman had threatened to go get a pistol, the Walmart would have stayed open. But because this man was so enraged, and he said, I'm gonna clear this whole store out. They shut it down so the people that wanted to come into the store couldn't come in, and the people that wanted to get out couldn't come out. They put the entire store in lockdown. Why? Because when men get angry and they become enraged, this is the one that was fighting. People can die. He went to go get his pistol. So I think about that feminine, masculine energy and what that means when we threaten one another or threaten people. What does it mean? So
trust the patterns. Evaluate why you married the person if it's still valid right now. Third thing you need to check out is that person is interested in growth, which again can show you with that pattern, whether or not they're willing to take a course or listen or to understand the power of submission in being submissive, like you as a feminine trait. There's nothing more ugly than a masculine woman or a beautiful woman with masculine energy. All right, not just because I don't like watching women box and fight each other and copy and MMA stuff like that's ridiculous to me. There's nothing cute or wonderful or beautiful about a woman beating on another woman. You know what I'm saying? So what does that mean? That means that someone's trying to bring you energy that is challenging as the husband, as the one who's supposed to be the leader of the family, the imam of the family. So evaluate those things, bro. And like the old saying goes, sometimes truth comes out in jest. So it may not be jokes. If that's a thought, and do you want it to get to that level? And I'm talking about sheer thought. I'm saying if that's actually an idea, a thought in her head that that's cool, number one, to think. But the most important part is to even say, because that's an absolute direct challenge to your masculinity, your manhood, and your cojones. All right? So whether or not you think it's worth it goes to your values. But if it was me, that's done. I'm a grown, I am, again, I'm talking about myself, and it's no disrespect to any other men. But as a man, that's an absolute and direct challenge to me. And to come from someone who's supposed to have my back and I have her back more than anybody else on the planet, to come from you, that's more than a red flag. All right, that's a threat. And I don't do well to threats. So yeah, she would not carry my name or be under my protection much longer if it was me. Continue a pattern of disrespect and then saying something like that. And first of all, I married Black Muslim women. Okay. First of all, Black women is the best women on the planet. You ask me, no question. And the Muslim is the best of them all. And you want to see how Islam honors women? Every Black women in particular, and again, women, but when you look at Black women in the noble status and stuff of Islam, you cannot make proper pilgrimage to Mecca without following in the footsteps of this Black Egyptian woman named Hajar, who was the second wife of our prophet Ibrahim, or Abraham, alayhi salatu wasalam. May peace and blessings be upon her. You cannot do it. The city of Mecca was built around her. You cannot complete your Hajj, your pilgrimage, without going through her footsteps in Safa or Marwa. All of these different things. This Black woman, ancestor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Think about that. The person who helped deliver the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who stayed with him, who helped raise him even after he got married. Baraka Ayman radiallahu anha. Black woman. Very, very important things. So that's just my personal preference. Not because Islam does all this stuff with Black nobility and stuff. No. It's just my preference when it comes to what I like. But the most important thing above all is that they are Muslims and they have Iman. They fear Allah Ta'ala. If they didn't do that, I don't care how beautiful they are, or the title they have, or how beautiful they were dressed and looking, all that. If they don't have Iman, they're not serious about fearing their Lord, it doesn't matter what you bring to them, you will still marry the devil. Mm-hmm. And we know that Allah Ta'ala lets us know that some of your spouses and your children are enemies. Are we not told of all these different family dynamics in the Quran? Look at Prophet Lut alayhi salam, the nephew of Prophet Ibrahim. His wife was the enemy. She was the one bringing these homosexuals in, setting things up and stuff like that back in Sodom or Sodom and Gomorrah. She was destroyed. Look at that. This is an example. This is not a fairy tale. So we have many of different, almost half of the Quran are stories and lessons for us. So for me, that's a no continue. Not a no-go because you already married her. You get married for whatever reasons. But divorce is also a solution. Okay, there's a whole chapter in Quran with that name. So hopefully that helped right there. Another question. Brother asks, he says, you know what should a wife do if she doesn't have good influencers around her, but still wants to hang around these negative people? Well, she's claiming that their negativity is not affecting them. I don't know if those blinds need to be closed just in case they go in an area where they're seen. So what should a wife do if she doesn't have any good influencers or wants to hang around these negative influencers, claiming that she is not impacted by the negativity?
My thing is this. For me, for a long time, my friends are Muslim. I don't have friends that aren't Muslim. I would not do well with friends that are not Muslim. And if I'm, I need to be my own best influence too. I need to influence me in a positive way. Because my friends are not living with me, they're not around me, but when they are, they remind me of Allah. So I don't have one friend that is not Muslim. So I make sure my circle is Muslims. The Muslims that love my family, not just me. I don't have friends that love me and then dog everybody in my family. So it's very important to put ourselves or insert ourselves in situations that will bring us closer to Allah and not pull us away from Him. And that starts with, working on you and being a good influence in your own life and staying around really great people that are going to remind you of Allah. And if they're not doing that, you need to reevaluate the circle, because that circle can be dangerous because we internalize things and they lay in our subconscious. Some of my friends are Muslim, some of them aren't. And with the group of women that I'm talking about, that did not work for me. And my aunt was not Muslim, but she would go, don't you have to pray right now? Or don't you? She didn't eat pork. She just didn't. She didn't. Her family did. So I didn't have to worry about eating at her home, but she loved my family as a whole. So if you have friends that aren't Muslim and they remind you of your Islam and they're really, really great people, then that's one thing. But if they're trying to pull you away from what is beneficial for you, then you have to reevaluate those circles and those friendships. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, the brother, he clarified what he meant by disrespect as well. He says, he means leaving the house without your knowledge, going to people to talk about you, lying about where she was. I'm gonna tell you like this. If you were my son, I would tell you to change your threshold, change your doorstep. Get rid of her. She's not worth your honor. Lying about where she was, kicking around people that talk crazy about you, and leaving the house without your knowledge. Okay. Ask yourself, what is the deal breaker? So these different things are happening. What's the deal breaker for you? Coming home, seeing her in the bed with some dude? Is that it? That's might be a deal breaker, not for all guys or whatever, but is it? If you were my son, I'm telling you, she's trash. I don't know her. If what you say is true, it's a very important caveat. It may not be, I don't know. But if what you say is true, when it comes to that pattern of disrespect and that type of disrespect and that type of threat, then yours truly, absolutely could move on happily in life without that. And thank goodness that, according to another question we're going to get to, there are no children involved. And I would strongly try to make sure there were no children that could come up in something like that would result from something like that. There's a lot more growth and introspection that must happen. And it doesn't look like that person's on that path. But hanging around bad influencers, thinking that she's not affected by the negativity, it could actually be she's leading the negativity. All right, just like we tell our children. My mother told me that. Birds of a feather flock together. My mentor is like, look, you hang around 5 broke dudes, you're bound to be the 6th. So you need to get a better circle. Not that the people weren't valuable, but they rub off on you. We know that. Like attracts like. When I had started studying life and looking for God and all this type of stuff after recognizing Christianity wasn't it, I was like, all right, I couldn't hang around my homies and stuff no more. They wanted to just chase bras, get high, continue serving and all kind of different stuff, right? Selling dope.
I was gonna say, what is that?
Right, serving now means you're helping people. It's totally different back then, right? So, I couldn't hang around them. What's the point? They're pulling in one direction. Reminds me of the Tupac song, I Ain't Mad at You. I was that Muslim trying to make that transition without dealing with prison. All right, so listen, you cannot raise an adult that you married to. You can try to provide guidance, give information, just like any other human. Just like Prophet Luke, he was a prophet lot, as they say in English. So why carry on? Is it worth it? I don't care. I'm a man that we have a big family, all right? So there's nothing so good as to keep a man around, a man of value that has values, around with a woman like that, if that is true. Okay? I don't care how good the sex is. It ain't none of that to lower yourself to be nothing. All right, billions of women on the planet, bro. Consider what happened. Chalk up the losses, learn the lesson from the mistakes, and do better, inshallah, prayerfully. Another question here. Husbands getting older. The wife is taking a while to conceive. husband wants to marry another wife, should the initial wife continue to be the first, to try to be the first to have his child before he marries another wife? That's a totally personal thing in general. You know what I'm saying? That's a totally personal thing. Yeah, so it's up to y'all. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, if it was a person that was like we just got done speaking about with the disrespect, I would absolutely let you know to run, period, from having any type of children with that.
They're gonna keep turning it up a notch, you know, to get a reaction or whatever the case may be. You wanna keep thinking about what's the new threat gonna be every day, every month, every week.
All right. So we're gonna take maybe about 10 minutes to address some of the questions. Those are the questions that we have from our RMIC members.
Great
So
questions.
now with the public, if you have not registered for our freemium area where you could ask questions and got priority and also get access to the downloads and things like that go on, outstandingpartialrelationscom/RMIC freemium. Yeah, go there, register, get inside access outside of IG, Facebook, and YouTube. So here's some of the questions. If you see any questions here, I'm gonna pull up this one over here for questions. And give salams to everybody.
Detroit,
Yeah, Mississippi, Detroit now.
Milwaukee.
North Carolina, salam, what up to love the kids. Fatima, you know what? I'll give you another example earlier what I was talking about with the men, where men have been emasculated, they even emasculate themselves. Men are the walis, the wakils, are the representatives of the women. Even if you're not Muslim, it's something about going to ask your father or ask her father for his daughter's hand. There's a hierarchy that goes on because the men, again, are supposed to be the ones who stand up for and protect the women. So when a man feels so weak as to say, you know what, if your mother says it's okay for you to marry in polygyny, then I'm okay with it. If your mother says, that's not the manly thing to do. The man is supposed to be looking out for his daughter's best interest, investigate, see what she's looking at, especially when she's already been married before. Anything other than that is weak, is the saddest use for a man. And I'm gonna tell you that, that's real. If your daughter's looking at getting married or involved in something in polygyny, period, you as a man are supposed to be investigating it whether you like it or not. That's your responsibility to put on your shoulders. And to go ahead and relegate that to your wife? No. That's not how I go. If it did, then the Prophet ﷺ would have done that. But he didn't. And if the father's not around, guess what? It still doesn't go to the mother or the wife. It goes to the brothers, the uncles, the other relatives, men. But men have to be men first. I know it's easier to be a punk today. It's easier to go and have all the excuses and to be scared of your women. And I know it's easier. It is, because it's cheaper. Polygyny requires you to talk about a discussion of being a man, being more, being empowering, being a warrior. Anything else, being a punk is easy. They love that. I mean, Lil Nas X, right? Be that. Anyway, sorry about that. Just, that's weak. Let me see if we got some questions. I waste too much time on that. Too many women, I agree, Rebecca. Too many women can't, first of all, salam, shalom, shalom. Too many women can't even be open-minded and mature enough to even consider there can be benefits in polygyny. They're scared, so they vilify it instead. Sad. I would probably say girls versus women, but I agree. You have some questions you want to say? I'm just looking for something real quick from over here. And you have immature wives who remark, why should we make things easier for him? It's him who chose a way of life that's not even mandated. How do you respond to this type of silly mentality? You have some women, wives, remark, why should we make stuff easier for him? It's him who chose his way of life. It ain't even mandated. So whatever drama and all that type of stuff, whatever, that's his stuff. He made it.
Okay, let's quit dehumanizing these men, please. Because those kind of women are first want to ball up if he dies. Be laying all over his coffin. Talking about, why did you leave me? And all this stuff like that. See, you don't know how much you love someone truly until they're gone from your life. You go, oh, well, I could have been. You'll regret being a jackass and making things harder if you have the right heart, if you're hurting, I get it. But that doesn't mean you need to be miserable in someone else's life, even though they made a decision. Because prayerfully, with that mindset, you don't have children. Because you're hurting them. Because they're watching you make it harder. I have a bunch of 20-some-year-old daughters, and then they have so many memories when they were 15, 13, and 9. So much. But so many good memories they have too, of everyone trying to make things easier versus making things harder. It was not easy, but at least they can say, well, you know what, you all tried, and you have OPR, and you're doing so many things, helping so many families, and so many people. So the good outweighed the rough parts. But if you're just blatantly saying, oh, just, I remember this one sister, I was friends with her years ago, and another mutual friend was like, well, Fatima, she just doesn't like you anymore because you remind her of what her husband did, which is get another wife, because our husbands are close. And I told her, I said, well, this woman is known for saying, well, that's his problem. Well, that's his problem. That's his problem. It's not my problem. But your children are siblings. Your children are not going to always be little. And they'll remember you saying, it's not my problem, it's his problem. You want to wear that? You want that to be your attribute? Because even today, after all those years, the women in the community remember, well, you can't ask her now because she just don't say that's his problem. She's just going to be bitter. So see, they don't even hear it anymore because you cemented yourself so negatively within these circles that these women don't even want to be bothered with you. So you tried to villainize him and you ended up being the villain. Them tables will turn on you. See, people don't think they will, but they'll turn.
And that's the thing, when you look at a negative mentality, negative begets negative. It's just going to be negative, period. So when it comes down to saying, why should I make it easy? This is your family. This is your, it goes into what Coach Nazir was talking about earlier with the loyalty, and we were talking about earlier when you become this person that is so hell-bent on causing destruction and calamity because you're hurting or because you have some issues or whatever the case may be. When it all comes down to it, we are responsible for how we respond to certain things. We talked about and trained on that earlier in the year about emotional intelligence and feelings and things like that, and how to deal with those things and how to separate the two, where just because you are feeling a certain way or you have these things that you feel in a certain way, that you don't have to initially, or you don't have to immediately act on your initial emotion or your initial feeling. It's learning how to be emotionally intelligent, because those are the things that shows how mature you are, and that time is going to promote or expose you, and what you do is going to promote or expose you. And if you are that person that's saying, why would I make it easy for this person? The harder that you want to make it on somebody else is going to come back harder on you. What goes around comes around. That saying is not just a saying just because it sounds good. So that's the thing. If you are a true, wife that, we got married because we're going to build this life and this legacy and this thing like that, you mind your marriage. You take care of what you take care of and protect your marriage. And protecting your marriage is not causing destruction everywhere else. And protecting your marriage is not causing destruction and pain and dishonor or anything like that on your husband. Because just because he married someone else, it does not take the love away from you. That's the thing that people have to get into their brains, that love is expandable. You can expand on that. You're not taking away from one to give to the other. And if he has not changed how he behaves to you and how he provides for you and how he protects you, because he married someone else, and you have to look at that. You have to see that for what it is, instead of for what you want to skew it out to be. Because sometimes we want to be victim. Sometimes we want to play victim because, that's where we get our attention. We got to remember that you will be exposed. So do you want to be promoted, or do you want to be exposed for a master manipulator that is causing calamity and destruction wherever they go, or whenever they open their mouth, or wherever they set their foot? Do you want to be the person that shines the light, or you want to be the person that dims the light? Because please believe, as hard as you're going to make it for somebody else, you are going to be the one lost and alone and feeling some type of way and wondering why I did what I did. So first and foremost, when we feeling those emotions, we need to take a step back and say, you know what? Why am I feeling this? Is it true? How can I get through this? And everything like that. Ask ourselves these intelligent questions that's going to allow for growth, not for destruction.
And I want to add on that, and I want to get over here to these brothers. You got to be careful how you begin off in religion. With that being said, if it looks as though you haven't communicated properly to your family beforehand, and Coach Nazir has talked about this many, many times and trained about this specifically. Sometimes wives or children will look at that and they'll try to do the same thing, even though you're not on that anymore. And maybe you made a mistake, but sometimes the kids will go, oh, Abu did it or dad did it, let me do what he does. And you don't mean for that to ever happen. And you don't mean for so much to fall out of your hands because you tried so hard, but then it registers differently. So then they think, well, you did something mean and cruel and violent to me, I'm gonna do it to you. And that was never your intention, but it looks that way. So it can get lost in translation. So good to have, I don't care what anybody says. If a man wants to practice polygyny, he needs to have a conversation about that. It needs to be heard, listened to. Let's open up the floor to talk about it and invite the men in our lives. I have sons. We all have sons. Invite them to have the conversation with us so we can help them if that's something that they want to do as grown men, so that it's not so scary to talk about. It's super important to have these conversations with our children about polygyny, our female children and our male children, so that they don't feel as though we're not bringing it up or talking or supporting them in it. So I have some daughters that say, look, let's get it. Let's do polygyny. I want a polygynous marriage. I don't want to get married at all. I have daughters that said, nope, skip that. I just want my husband to myself. And that's it. And then my son is undecided. He's like, no, I don't know yet. And he's very young, so he doesn't need to know, but I want him to know he can come to any one of the three of us and speak and talk about and be supported in polygyny. Do we have a question? What do you think the future of polygyny is? Do you think more people will accept and adapt to it fully?
When you understand the reason why monogamy is so strong and why the US in particular wanted to make monogamy one of its distinctive factors and pinpoints of white supremacy, you might want to pick up the book by Nancy Cott called Public Vows. All right, so as long as the colonial mindset continues to still exist and imperial expansion continues to exist, though it's waning in power, the West is falling fast. I'm bearish on the West, for those who are traders and understand. So polygyny has always been around. It's going to be accepted regardless. Now, will it continue in the West as a solution? Of course it will. All right, as long as we focus on men being men. But how is that really working right now in the West? How are you feeling today? As a man? Are you identifying as a man today? Do we need to find some weird pronouns? Are you a plural? You know what I'm saying? So how's that really going over in the West? Am I looking forward to expanding the West? It already is. But who cares what they think? What matters is you and your own personal family. Are you building right now for your fam? I'm telling you, if polygyny was the norm, we have a whole lot more stability in our societies. Because the men would actually have to be men, taking care of families and accepting responsibility. But when the price of the chocha is cheap, it allows men to be weak. Anyway, okay, bro, I'm just saying. I'm just, just saying.
Somebody talked about support and all this stuff with wives, and first wives supported, and the second one like financially with the government and things like that. And somebody specifically asked me, some happened to Coach Nazir, and I'm like, look, something happened to Coach Nazir. I'm not worried about anything because we're still a family. You know, Allah preserve him and me, but we're still a family regardless. We're going to take care of each other in whatever that means. So our children are taken care of, wills are taken care of. We've thought of all of those things. There's many people here to support and love. So we'll just, you know, and prayerfully we won't have to carry on without him. I try not to really think of it, but we have to be realistic so that we can plan things. And I think it's great to have a plan which includes all wives, all children, and families that practice polygamy need to sit down and talk about those plans and have them in place, so that the worst thing to do is to bury your husband or bury a loved one and there's no will or plan or anything in place. That's just across the board, whether you practice monogamy or polygyny. Everyone, please think of what is going to happen if something happens.
We're going to shoot through these questions because in about 15 minutes we have an interview that we're going to be doing. So brother asked a question like wills, healthcare, children have medical help, stuff like that. It's America. So you buy it, pay for it. All right, wills are relatively easy to do. You don't need any special stuff like that. Healthcare, have your own company, put your family in your benefits. It's not, again, something that's really simple to do. You buy it. It doesn't matter. They don't care if you have one wife, 10 mistresses, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's about the dough if you live in the West. So that's the quick answer to there, but you can get, again, we dealt with that before in some other videos on YouTube, for example. Wrong indeed. Okay. So the sister says her husband tried to, lady says, my husband tried to force this on me. It's not something I want. I said that I agree, but I don't agree with having children, him having children with another woman. You guys think that this could work? She don't agree with him having children with another woman. Sex, but not children. Okay. It appears.
I want to take that one. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think, listen, your husband got to be a husband and make his decisions, regardless. All right, that's not up to the neck. You know, if you want to talk about being unfair, no problem. Be the woman that says, I'm the one that's on the legal docs. I'm the one he has children with. I'm the OG, blah, blah, blah. She's just this to the side. Okay? So there are those type of women like, yeah, he could just have it, but that's just a piece I'm allowing him to have.
I don't allow anybody.
All right, a man, a husband, he's going to make a decision, and he should be able to make a decision. He should consult, but ultimately he's the CEO. He has to make this executive decision. Whether or not he intends to expand his family is upon him, and it's his responsibility, not yours. So I understand the thinking that comes behind it because I want to feel superior, I want to feel first, I want to and I want to have a say-so in what he does. Okay, I understand that. Do I think it could possibly work? If you work on growth and really understand the different dynamics of it and understand the expansion of family and the history of polygyny, it could likely work, but that's being really open to growth. So one, congratulations for being here, not jumping on you, but just let you know, coming in from that position that I need to be this up here and whatever other wives or wife would be down here and below, and I'll determine whether or not or feel good, whether or not he has another child, I can understand the jealousy and stuff that may go on there. But that doesn't mean it's something functional because that's his marriage. He's monogamously married to her and you. Okay? You don't determine what happens there. She doesn't determine what happens with you. Y'all equal. Equal. And I know some people don't believe in equality when it comes to polygyny, but we talking about how Islam came. It didn't permit or allow polygyny or make it permissible. It already existed. It restricted it and regulated and said up to 4 at one time. It made some measurables between time and money. So you're equal. There's no hierarchy. There's no totem pole type thing. Those are from different ways of thinking. So depending on where you are, we're talking about from a scriptural viewpoint of they equal. Yep. Been married 11 years versus 26. That doesn't mean, oh, well, I go ahead and I treat this like 26, but once you get to 26, then I'll treat you at this level. And you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So prayerfully that helps on that point right there.
You stay in your lane. You know, we stay in our lane with our friends and their husbands. And I equate it to that, although it's different. But I don't ask my friends, they don't get permission for me to have children with their husbands. My sisters, but that's not my business. This is not your business.
You don't control his
Stuff
what's
that's
between his
your
legs,
business.
no matter as much as women like to believe so. You don't control how he does his thing, whether or not he cheats or not. You don't. A man go out there and cheat and have baby mamas and all kind of stuff and ST. You don't control them. We don't control any other human beings, no matter how much we want to, even our children. Okay, they don't belong to us. They're not our property.
If you control them, you could have stopped them from getting married. You don't control anybody.
So, Brother Nadir, good name. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Asked, how can you afford to take care of 2 households here in America? One, that's a good question. We talk about it in a number of different videos. When you got to get your weight up. All right, in the US, less than 10% of people make over 6 figures a year. 10%. That's $8,000 a month. Whether it's trading, whether it's knowledge commerce, whether it's investing or real estate, there's many different ways to do it, but you got to get your weight up. You got to get your thinking up. So if you think it's an impossibility, then it's going to be an impossibility for you. It is what it is. It's not a lottery mentality. It's about working and learning and grinding. So learn, get your weight up. We talk about it and give a number of different resources of as well.
It depends on where you live in the US. So a friend of mine has a house on the East Coast. She can take care of herself for what it costs for her apartment on the West Coast. Just the rent for the apartment, not the maintenance, not the lights, none of that. She said, I could not live in California.
I love Cali too,
I
but
could
no.
not live there on what I live on the East Coast of the country. So it really depends on geography too, within this country where you live. You know, it's a little difficult in certain areas, but not impossible.
All right, last question. Well, yes, let's wrap up. Abu Khadija, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, wa Ramadan Mubarak, asked, do you plan on investing in a podcast in your future? Yes. There's so much going on, a lot of different stuff to do, but yeah, we've already even recorded some episodes. I mean, all of us together, but also individually, inshallah ta'ala.
That's on the list.
All right, so yeah, outstandingpartialrelationscom. Connect with us, subscribe to the email list. We are also broadcasting from our private Facebook group called Let's Talk Polygyny. So if you want a little bit more discussion in there or to chill and see what's going on, lurk, AKA lurk, feel free. Let's Talk Polygyny is our Facebook group there. Other than that, next week we will be going live prayerfully as long as we all live to that point. For our RMIC members. So if you're not an RMIC member, but you want the worksheets, the downloads, better access to us, then you should get registered at outstandingpartialrelationscom/RM for relationship mastery. Again, pardon my voice dealing with this vocal cord thing. Prayerfully next week I'll be better, as well as Coach Nyla as well. I know I see a comment that she's unusually quiet. Well, I didn't know she had a nose job and stuff. She had a little surgery, ain't a nose job, but it was work on the inside. So anyway, all right, we out. We can end with GLC. Anything else y'all need to mention or leave with? We good?
Good.
All right, so GLC, let's do
Make
it.
sure you are growing intentionally.
Loving.
Fearless,
Say it again. Let's do it again. We gotta, don't worry. Let's do it again.
right?
Make sure you are growing intentionally.
Loving fearlessly.
And connecting on a higher level every single day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Uh.